All right, folks, we are back on Finding the Truth with me, your host, Myke Hideous, and my partner in crime, Z. So we want to
hello, everyone.
Say hello, yes. Now go back in your cage. We want to say thank you so much for listening to our show, which is just starting out. We appreciate your support, and
Be sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you enjoy.
Exactly. Exactly. Please, and hit the notification button so you know when we have a new show coming out. By the way, just so you know, it's obvious that these shows have been pre-recorded. Z and I have been discussing how we want to go into more of a live show where we can get the audience to respond, ask questions, maybe even call in. We are working on that, but please bear with us. We are a very new podcast podcast, and we're trying to see how this goes. So we hope that you will enjoy this as much as we have enjoyed taking the opportunity to work on this program and get it to where we are right now, which is only the third show. So very many thanks to all of you who are listening. Thank you so much from both myself and Z.
Yes, we appreciate you listening, and please give us some input and feedback in the comments and so forth.
Please.
So to sort of, as a final thought on our topic tonight for morals, I wanted to at least bring up something in my perspective as I've studied the human condition, essentially. Is one of the things that I think is essential, a big part of people making immoral decisions, is sometimes around fears. They have fears of, at the very least, of not having enough money for certain things and eating and stuff like that. So maybe you turn to crime. But there's just, I know fear is a big problem for people in general, because when you go out in this world and you're just afraid of things, and it's sometimes because you're not knowledgeable of them, you're going to act on those fears. So it's just, that's one of the things that I think is an underlying cause of people, doing immoral things is, they get afraid of being caught in something that they know is wrong, and then they make it worse. I saw this other story today of a guy who was a porch pirate. And a porch pirate. That's when, but you don't have that in your neck of the woods?
I don't even know what it is. What is it?
A porch pirate is somebody that will look at your home and see if you had deliveries from Amazon or other places, and they'll run up and they'll take your stuff. Yep.
I just call them assholes.
That is the more generic term for them. Porch pirate may be copyrighted, but it's just been a huge problem, and you can get see videos of all this stuff. But in either case, somebody's Ring doorbell caught this guy stealing the package, and the homeowner was watching at the time. So they actually called up the police, and the police were in the area, and they went after him. And when they saw the guy that was described to them, and they had video on, the cops told him to stop. Now, here's a guy who just picked up a package, put it in his backpack, and it's so big it couldn't close the backpack, and he's holding another package. And his, cop says, "Hey, you, stop." And his idea is to run. And it's like, dude,
they think that they're unstoppable, today's criminals.
I guess that's, again, you've already made a stupid and immoral decision, and now you're going to compound it by running away. And where are you going?
They literally provoke the police so that the police have to now do their job with physical what would the word be? Physical
force. They've got to go after you.
Right.
They got to chase you.
And then it's police brutality. Oh my God, I can't breathe. Oh my God, racism. Blah blah.
Well,
this is the idiocy of today's young or criminals in general. They're taking it to a level where they think they are the entitled victim, but they're not. They're just a bunch of uneducated. That's right. No responsibilities. They're uneducated, and they're criminals. Period.
Yep. So the interesting part of this story is that as the guy takes off, and you're watching the cam from the police officers, and they run after him, and then there's this other camera shot from somebody else's house, because everybody has a camera nowadays.
Everybody,
so I mean, like,
This
why
is
are
it.
you going to do something illegal if you have a camera? Cameras are everywhere. Anyway, this other angle shows the guy running, and there's a car that was in the office. I mean, sorry, on the street. And this guy got out of the car and basically tackled the guy. And
Yep.
then him and the cop, basically wrestled the thief to the ground, and he got arrested. So I mean, there was a scene where actually a Good Samaritan, somebody I think actually worked for the city where it happened, and he had no problem jumping out of his car doing the right thing.
Good for him.
And here's this dumbass criminal, like a lot of times these porch pirates, they don't even get anything. You're literally getting somebody's box of underwear or socks or something like that.
That's
It's
all.
not always something like a drone, but
You know,
in either case, it's a stunning thing that we're dealing with this level at this point, and it's getting worse, and it seems to be actually encouraged by the powers that be at this point, since so many cities have no bail laws.
That's right.
now.
And let's be
So just
specific. Those
catching and
cities
releasing.
that are run by Democrats, because they like to have the criminals caught and then let them go 5 minutes later, because that's their
That's
way
the
of
new
thinking.
thing in the last 3 or 4 years. Every major city seems to have this no bail
Any
system,
major
and-
Democrat city. Let's be specific
So-
here, Z.
No, you're right, and like, actually, that just occurred to me just thinking about it in general, about the cities. Most of the cities are in some sort of level of just ridden with crime or just homelessness, and they've got the migrant problems. Just
Disarray.
I can't see a reason to go to any cities from Chicago to New York to
Nope.
to L.A. I mean San Francisco. I have no desire to visit any of these cities.
Nope.
And
Neither do I.
I was trying to think, like, is there a Democrat-run city that is doing really well?
Nope. No, there isn't.
I mean, like, I know there's like whatever 300 cities in this country or whatever. Like, please, if there's somebody that is where it's democratically run and the city is like they have a surplus in the budget and the cops are all happy and there's a really low crime rate, and like, I don't think that place exists.
And before you go on, you can't even ask that question to a Democrat or a PC liberal. I'll tell you why. Because those people who are living in those cities run by Democrats, if they themselves are indeed a PC liberal Democrat, especially if they're woke, they're going to tell you right off the bat, oh yeah, our city's great. But they're going to ignore the fact that there's crime running wild, so to speak. I don't know if that was the proper term, but crime's out of control. Theft is out of control. Like you can like in San Francisco, you can walk right into a store with a garbage bag and just load shit up into the bag up to about $1,000 worth and walk out, and literally nobody's going to stop you. So those people who you would actually sit here and ask on this show, hey, is anybody out there, do you live in a Democrat-run city that's in shambles? Do you think it's going good? And they'll say yes. And they'll say yes because they know that if they had a Republican running it, they'd be arrested.
Well, they can't give Republicans credit for anything.
No, of course not.
I mean, that's one
look
thing
at what
that's
the
like
cartel's
disgusting.
doing. Look at what the cartel's doing right now with all the migrants who are crossing into the country. Okay.
Yeah, they're cashing out
They're-
because each
they're
one of those people are paying
cashing
$5,000 to get across the border
That's right.
to whatever handlers get them in there.
And sometimes
And,
these poor people don't even make it across. They're either badly beat up or murdered or raped or whatever, God knows what. The horrific things that are taking place are at the border are all a direct result of the administration currently and
Not doing their job.
and President Corpse and Communist Harris for not doing their jobs. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that you brought up Harris. Like, he gave her that job to go clean up the border. What?
didn't do
right
shit.
after right after she got in they got in office. Like, no, I don't think she's done anything except
She
been cackling and laughing her way around the country for the last
She went
3
down
years.
there once, and she didn't even go to the bad section. She went to this
No.
nice, pretty place where they straighten it all out. They know nothing. This is the worst
care.
administration.
They don't
care.
care.
And
They
this
don't
is the
care.
worst administration the country has had in decades, if not 100 years, if more.
The problem is that's their agenda. It's working. This is exactly what they want.
It's exactly what they want.
Sad as it is.
It's disgusting, and it makes me sick. You know, I try to be... I've had my issues with the country in the world. I'm sorry. I've had my issues with the country over the years when I was a younger man. And I protested, but I protested through music. So when I see what happens today, I wouldn't consider throwing a brick at a veteran's head or through the window of a department store and stealing a bunch of boxes of Nike sneakers to say, well, you see, times are tough and I got to feed my family. So I'm going to feed them these Nike sneakers.
Well, take them home and sell them on eBay.
Exactly. So how starving can these people be if they've got the ability to break a window, steal sneakers, and sell them on eBay or on the streets? Okay, instead of a real thief. That's the wrong word. A real caring person who has to steal to get food. Let me tell you a little story real quick. In 1994, I got caught shoplifting. You know why?
What?
I got caught shoplifting.
Oh, my God.
Twice. The first time I got...
you're a repeat offender.
Right.
Thanks for coming out
But
on
let
the
me
show
explain. Let me explain. At the time in 94, I was suffering badly economically, all right, financially. I had lost my job. I was out of work for a year and a half. My wife and I at the time, she was basically supporting me, and I was doing whatever I could to make a little ends meet. I couldn't find a job. So I ended up going to, whenever I'd go shopping, I'd steal stuff. And I would steal things that I needed that I couldn't pay for. Razors, batteries. I would steal, one time I actually stole a whole thing of like cookie dough. Not that I needed it, but
I don't think you'd want to go to jail for that. Like, you know,
well,
what'd you get busted doing? I was stealing cookie dough.
I also had a tube of toothpaste, toothbrushes, and a few other things.
Depends on how many you have.
Well, I only got a couple going on here, but you know what I'm saying is that, you know, I stole these things because I couldn't afford to pay for them. I didn't steal. It's not like I was stealing CD. Well, they didn't have CDs back. Well, they did have.
Well,
CDs.
You weren't stealing things of value that you're going to go sell necessarily.
Right. I was
people
trying
don't usually take a tube of toothpaste and thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get $5.
I'm going to sell this on the street."
Hey man, you need some.
Hey, Crest. No, Crest. How about some Aim? Colgate.
Hey,
No.
You know what? I got Aquafresh here. Man.
I got Aquafresh. Remember that? Anyway, all I'm saying is that
none of those companies are sponsors of the show, please. You know.
all of those things that I did back then, I did for a reason, not because I just wanted to steal and be cool and look bad. I did that when I was a kid, when I was about 10 or 8. You know, I stole from bubble gum and shit like that. But that was a kid. You know, kids do shit like that. You know.
And I'm glad that you've at least confessed your sins here for our audience. And it's one thing. It's one thing when you steal for need, and not for greed. Mm-hmm. So I mean, when you see like the footage from I think it was last summer, where like some internet celebrity or influencer did something in New York City where he was giving away Xboxes or something, and he basically caused this small riot. Where like suddenly people were going into the Apple store and other stores and just like robbing them blind, like you see happening out in Los Angeles, and it's just like, what do you think that this is something you're entitled to? And then they actually had video of the event from a few people, of course, because everybody has their phones, and that's literally was the attitude of the rioters. Like, this is ours, this is our chance, this will get our stuff. Okay, this is all ours. No, it isn't.
And you said the magic word before, entitlement.
Yeah.
I see entitlement more so on so many people these days, both male and female, black and white, whatever, straight, gay, whatever. The entitlement is unbelievable. And I think what these people fail to understand is that America doesn't owe you jack shit. America is an opportunity land, a land where you can make your own dreams come true. Every successful man or woman that has a successful story behind them on how they went from rags to riches, They built it themselves. That's the thing. As a Satanist, that is the thing that I understand most about a life. You make your own destiny. You carve your own path through life in order to get to where you want to go. So when anybody ever says to you, well, the reason we got the plague was because the devil brought it upon us.
Right.
No, devil didn't bring. That's just an excuse. I mean, I'm using Christianity
sure,
as an example to say how things were. Like, if things went bad, it was the devil's fault. But if the sun was shining and you found a pot of gold, that was because of God.
Right.
And that's not how it works.
No, it doesn't. And this is where my opinion, and I guess we bring it up since you say you're a Satanist. I consider myself a deist or a deist. And deist basically is someone who believes in a higher power but does not believe in organized religion. So, from that perspective, that's been my perspective for quite a while, on basically the world. I look at it from a logical reason. Deism was something that a number of the founding fathers actually believed in. It originated from the 17th century, I think, or 18th century.
I read about it briefly when I was studying occult.
Yeah, well, it's just the belief in a higher power, but he's not involved with our daily lives. And the whole
God?
thing with God. No,
right. Okay.
If you want to call him God or whatever it is, it's really not important. It's just the idea that there's something greater than us as humans, because we can't be at the top of the chain. If we think we are the greatest things in the world, then we get what we get. People with egos and attitudes, and politicians that are only looking to line their pockets and just benefit themselves, and they don't really care about the rest of the people. And
sadly, that's what
sadly,
it's become.
Yes.
So I think if we're going to wrap things up here, are we wrapping things up here?
Yeah, time to wrap it up.
So I just want to say, people, tonight's show, I did my best to describe what I see happening in this country and the downfall of morals and the proper way of things to keep us as a civilized society. And if that falls, if that completely falls, and it's, boy, it's close. And if something catastrophic happens to this country, where all the electronics are knocked out, and all these entitled people don't get to use their iPhones and computers and Facebook and Instagram and X and this and that and the other thing, they're not gonna survive. They're not gonna survive, because you have to be able to separate that, so that if it comes to blows, you still got to remember we are supposed to be a civilized society. But if we get knocked back into the Stone Age, how would we build ourselves back up again? And has that happened before in the history of the world? So that's what I'm trying to make people understand.
And a civilized society is what provides a society that you can grow and achieve, your happiness. Find some happiness before you can, draw your last breath.
I kind of strayed a little bit, but you're right. That ultimately it's about doing the right thing and learning from others how to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Be good to your brother. Be good to your sister. Be good to your parents, your neighbors, your friends. Do the right thing.
You got to be open-minded and listen and learn and take everything in. I mean, that's a lot of how I've grown my personal philosophies and principles and values, is just by being a listener and just learning from all the available sources, because unfortunately my parents really weren't there for me to provide that sort of guidance.
Which is sad. When I hear your story, it's very sad.
Well, thank you.
It saddens me, because I've known people who have been in the same, not exactly your story, but in the same shoes, either missing one or both parents. I compared, like, for example, when I first started dating girls, in my late teens, and how I saw the difference of me having been brought up with two parents who were very conservative, very strict with rules, and brought the hammer down if I did something wrong, as a pair compared to the girls that I might have been dating whose parents were divorced. They were most likely living with their mother. And if I dated a girl who had two parents, like the girl I married, the difference between the two was unbelievably different. That was terrible, but unbelievably... it wasn't hard to conceive, but it was like this, like, wow, these girls are different than the girls who were brought up with parents. So it's all about education, parenting, and education.
Yep.
That's where you get wisdom from.
You have to get something good from both those sources if you can. And then if not, it's just, I don't know, I guess it might be fate or however you want to phrase it, or just the miracle. Like occasionally people will get raised in a horrible situation and they will recognize how horrible it is and they will see the big picture and they will get themselves out of it. But it is a rare story because they're just not getting it from any real authority. But if you somehow get that perspective, you can see your way out of the hell from which, people are living in for generations. It's just, it's a sad story because that's how I really feel about the immorality, the racism, the corruption. It's just a learned behavior. I mean, you can look at our current administration. It seems clear that, Joe was corrupted and he corrupted his son and corrupted the rest of his family. Who knows where that started, but it probably came from his dad. And the same thing with so many other individuals and on so many different levels. They get taught a certain way and then they do the best to, that's how they get happy, is by doing things that are wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You got to know the difference between the two. It's
just so sad. I mean, there's so many people that just take advantage of all sorts of systems. I've heard it my entire life where people will be like, okay with filing a false claim, with insurance or something, or they'll be okay with making a false statement on whatever their return and getting extra money. And I even remember having a conversation with this one guy when I had a construction job, and he outright admitted to walking into the office of a gas station once, seeing a bag of money, grabbing it, and just walking out, and no one saw him.
Wow!
He got like 20 grand out of that. So
wow!
And he had no problem doing it. I was like, and it was the guy's fault, the owner of the business who bothered to leave the office open.
Like, who the hell does that, man?
Yeah, I mean, the guy probably went to the bathroom.
I'm going to leave this bag of $20,000 on the table here. I'm going to go take a poop.
Yeah, but it's not, that guy's fault that, I could take this,
Of course not.
There is morality in other places. I recently saw a video of a couple that I like to watch on YouTube in their channel, and they're in China. China is, as what we all know it is. But they pointed out at one point they had really expensive... China is communist China. But it's very safe there. They talked about how they could leave their, $2,000, camera, right on the seat, walk to the bar car, and come back, and the camera would still be sitting there. Because it's just that people don't, there's a minority of people that want to be morally corrupt there.
Do you know why? Because in countries like that, and especially in the Arabic countries, and I may have mentioned this to you before, when you, let's take, for example, Saudi Arabia. You steal a loaf of bread, they'll cut your fucking hand off. You rape, all right, Iran, okay? Iran. You rape a woman, they will take you in front of the family of the woman who you abused, and they will chop your member off in front of that family. Tell me that's not good revenge. Well, if you kill somebody...
I guess, but I mean also the penalty for adultery is stoning. So I mean, if you're in an unhappy marriage and you decide to,
I think you're missing my point.
But no, I get your point. There is more of a... the punitive results of your actions is far severe than what we have right now, which is catch and release. The only time you're going to stay in jail is if you kill somebody.
That's what I'm telling you. The good thing about this country is that we have a court system, which is also corrupt at this point. But the fact is, if it worked properly, well, I'll tell you, you people are lucky I'm not a judge or a cop, because I would be like, do you ever see Dirty Harry? Because that would be me. If you were to, as I just said, in Iran, if you kill a person or do something terrible in which you are proven guilty, I mean, they don't take shit, man. There's no waiting list for, Skid Row. There's no waiting list for 10 years. You're going to wait on.
You mean death row, right? Because there's no wait.
Sorry, Skid Row. Yeah. Not the band.
There is no waiting list. You can go there anytime. They'll accept you.
So what I'm saying is that there's no waiting list on death row where you can wait to appeal over and over and over, and the court and the judges and the lawyers will just drag it out. So that this guy who killed an entire family, okay, and there's proof of, like for example, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, okay, proven guilty. They've got all the proof on him. And how many years did he wait until he was executed? My point.
It seems like your average person that gets sentenced to death waits at least 20 years before they're put to death.
So the taxpayers pay for their cable TV and their hamburgers and their comfy prison pillows.
No, I'm unfortunately I was, as a bleeding heart liberal, I was, not for the death penalty. I was like, the state shouldn't be responsible for killing people. It's wrong, which is most of the opinion in Europe and a lot of other countries that are basically socialist. And then I unfortunately went through the tragedy of dealing with having my father murdered.
Oh.
And then after that happened, I quickly realized that once somebody has indicated that they are a monster in this world and they have no value for human life and are willing to take human life just for their own gain or whatever reason they want to come up with, you're a monster. You don't deserve to live anymore. And unfortunately,
in the very definition of monster.
Yeah, very definition, especially after you've done it more than once.
Right.
So in the case for my father, unfortunately, that was his second murder. So like his first murder was for a 79-year-old grandmother that he raped before he murdered. So I mean, once you've really indicated to the public at large that this is the individual you are, I don't know why we need to keep them around.
That's right. When Z told me the story about his father and what happened, I was literally sickened by the story. It made me almost physically sick. I was disgusted that this piece of shit, this filth, was allowed to be released when he was. Your dad was trying to help the man.
Yeah, I was trying to help him get a job.
And he did what he did to your father. And I'll tell you, to this day, it angers me so much because obviously I know you as a personal friend, whereas other stories that I hear like this get me just as angry. In a very quick 1 minute 60-second story, I'm going to tell you, when my house, when we sold the house for where my father was living after my mother died, so this was like 2013 or 14, we moved my father out of the house that he built back in the 50s. And when the family that moved in, this black family moved in, and a few months after they moved in, headlines on newspapers and on television read about the shooting of a 12-year-old girl shot point blank, killed, right in Paterson, New Jersey. 2 weeks went by. They had no idea who killed this little girl. Until one day, after 2 weeks, an 18-year-old kid walked into the police station of Paterson, New Jersey, and said, "I confess, I'm the one who killed the 12-year-old girl. I shot her." Guess where that guy was living? My
Really? Wow.
house. He lived in my house after all the love and family values that were generated and took place in that home, my home. This animal, this savage piece of shit. That's me being kind. He killed a little girl for no reason at all. Shot point blank. And he lived in my house.
Yeah, that's shocking.
I mean, when my brother told me this story, I was sickened by it as well. To know that, as I just said, the love and the home that was created by my family, my parents in particular, they built that house. I was born and raised, well, not born in that house, but my brothers were born and raised in that house. And this piece of shit lived there and killed a little girl. So, yeah, I get it, man.
Well, that's where the house definitely was made with a good heart, but you can't help the individuals that may live there.
Of course, yeah.
So, sadly, that's a very sad story, especially when a child gets, killed. And unfortunately, that's another one that makes me sad as well. But we don't need to go too deep down on that road.
I just wanted to bring it up in comparison to what you went through, which obviously there's no comparison.
There's no comparing them. But
my heart, it breaks for you on what you had to go through with your father. It literally breaks my heart knowing what your poor father went through. And
thank you. I appreciate
all
that.
Out of an act of being kind and generous to what the guy was kind of a stranger to your father. Like, he knew him, but he wasn't a friend.
Yeah, he only known him for 6 months, and he knew he was looking for a job, and he was on the street. And so he actually went for a job interview with the organization my dad worked with the week before he killed him.
This is why I carry a gun.
Yeah, and so he let the person in thinking it was safe to, but he had no idea that he was a previously convicted murderer.
Terrible.
So, it's just a sad reality. The monsters in our world are not the ones you see in the movies and on TV. They are people that can look just like everybody else.
And they're worse.
And you just never know, and that's where you just need to be careful as you get to know people, especially in the internet age. It's too easy to fall for a pretty picture and a profile and some nice words and think you're dealing with something real. So anyway, we can get into another topic on that one.
Anyway.
This is kind of the end of the show there, Mike.
Yep.
So do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
Yeah, I just want to say, again, everyone, thank you so much for helping us and supporting us in our early episodes of Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. Me, Myke Hideous. I'm Myke Hideous. Folks, so especially if you want to get my book, which I wrote myself, it's called King of an Empire, To the Shoes of a Misfit, The Memoirs of Myke Hideous. It is a book about my time spent creating a band and becoming a performer. And it is available only on my website, which is MykeHideous.com. And don't forget, folks, my name is spelt with a Y, M-Y-K-E, Mike. And lastly, you can also contact me on Facebook, which is Facebook.com/HideousMike. And again, Mike spelt with a Y. And on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Z. Do you have anything that you want to...
Well, yeah, just to make clear to the audience that our episodes are going to be available on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And on YouTube in particular, you get a chance to take a look at Myke Hideous, the rock legend, the rock god. But still, you'll get to hear our banter and so forth.
You know it's true.
Yep, there you go. So, all right. Well, I just want to point that out to our audience. Please also you'll find the links also on MykeHideous.com, Mike with a Y. And we have the links to all the places to hear our show there. Also, look out for our merchandise soon. We'll have a link available so you can check out some cool merchandise with Myke Hideous's name and the show and some other cool items that we are working on designing.
And if I may just interrupt for 1 second, for those of you who do know me, who are Hideous fans, I want you to understand that this is going to be a separate store where you can buy the merchandise specifically for Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous. So as opposed to the MykeHideous.com, where I have other stuff available, music and my horrible artwork T-shirts and stuff. The Finding the Truth of Myke Hideous merchandise will be separate. So just so you know that, folks, okay? I just wanted to bring that out for you.
Excellent. Definitely a good thing to talk about. So there's opportunities to support our show and to enjoy everything that is hideous at MykeHideous.com. So, all right, well, we're done with our show. This is our third one. It's in the can. So I wish you a good night, Mike. It's
Yes.
been fun bantering with you again and going over today's issues. I hope we helped enlighten some people on morals, or at least inspired them to start looking at the young people around you and helping them understand what they are.
Good luck with that. All right,
Exactly.
folks. Well, thanks very much for listening again tonight. I'm very grateful. We are very grateful. And on that note, you'll be hearing from us on our next episode. Thank you very much. You've been listening to Finding the Truth with me, Myke Hideous, and my colleague, Z. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.